Hello, friends. Welcome back to Thought Life. I'm Brett, and the last time we were together, we talked about um, the phrase "your truth" and "my truth," and the idea that this comes from the postmodernist notion that there is no such thing as objective truth, that everything is subjective based on how we perceive it, and your truth and my truth can be different and even contradictory, but still coexist, and how that comes across in today's idea of a lot of social issues like transgenderism and things like that, where science or logic will be appealed to, and people will say, well, that's your truth, that's not my truth. And often it's used as a way to not have to appeal to anything but what you want to think is true. And so we discussed that. We discussed how there is in fact objective truth, and the only way that we can communicate and find common ground is through some type of objective truth. So this time, in this episode and discussion, we're going to talk about a common phrase and a common word used today, which is hate or hatred. So a lot of times you'll hear that people are full of hate, or they're speaking hate, or they're coming from a place of hatred. And so what does that mean? What do they mean by that? What does the culture mean by that? Um, so in order to understand this a little better, we have to go back to what a lot of people believe is our origins. Now, what's being taught today, a lot of the idea in the university world and in the science world, is that we sort of came here through a combination of matter, time, and chance. So at some time in the distant past, there was matter maybe that came into being randomly, or that has always existed. It came together, somehow exploded, and over time developed an ooze. And from that ooze, we evolved over a long period of time into thinking rational beings. Okay. And so from that random chance series of events, here we are, and we exist as sort of a amalgamation of chemicals that came together accidentally. And so as such, we behave according to those chemicals and their reactions within ourselves and with the rest of the world. So this is sort of a nihilistic thought, nihilism being the idea that everything is purposeless and meaningless. Now, that does not mean that people walk around saying my life is purposeless and meaningless. They don't think that. Almost no one would say that. Some people are actually nihilists; they would say that, but most people think, okay, I have plenty of purpose and meaning in my life. Maybe they'll say, I have meaning. I've given myself meaning. I have meaning by what I hold valuable, or what I put into life, the meaning I put into life, and so you know people don't walk around thinking, oh, my life is purposeless. Okay, but I'm talking about the origins of this thought process. The origins of this thought process come from the idea that we sort of just developed randomly by chance, and here we are, and we are nothing but the chemical reactions that go on in our brains. We're nothing ultimately but our basest desires and instincts. Again, this isn't what people walk around thinking, but this is the source of the thought process. Okay, and being taught this in schools and universities, obviously it's sort of playing in the background of a lot of people's minds. Again, they wouldn't say this, but this is where the idea comes from. So as beings that walk around and are basically just programmed by chance and by time and by matter to behave a certain way, okay, we have base instincts. We have these chemical processes that go on in our brain, and these develop instincts or base ideas of what we should or shouldn't be, what we should or shouldn't do, and then we follow those base ideas, and that drives our behavior. and we are nothing more than that. Okay. And this idea comes, basically follows that if I'm nothing more than my basest of instincts, if I'm nothing more than chemical reaction going on in my brain, then I sort of live out that reaction in everyday life, and my actions are who I am because they come from my basest desires and reactions. And so therefore, if I want to live a certain way, if I desire to do this and then I go and do it, it's a result of these chemical reactions and nothing more. I am nothing more than that. Okay. And that's important to understand, because then if someone comes along and says, hey, I don't think that's the best, what you're doing is the best way to live. I think that it may harm you, or it may not be good for you, or it may be morally wrong. People hear that and say, but I'm just doing my basest desires. And if my basest desires is all that I am, if all that I am are chemical reactions, then I can't help it. I just am who I am. And therefore, you saying what I'm doing is wrong, well, that's based solely in who I am, and there's nothing more to me. You're saying that I am, that basically I'm not good enough. The things that I'm doing aren't, which is based in who I am and my basest instincts, they're not good enough. Therefore, you are hating me by disliking my actions or hating the things that I do. You're hating me because that's all I am. Okay. So again, people don't walk around saying, oh, I'm just a result of random chemical chance. But again, this idea that by hating or disliking something I do, you're hating me, that's where this comes from. Okay. Now, the truth is that you are a lot more than chemical reactions in your brain. You are a lot more than your basest desires. Okay. You have capacity to make decisions. You have capacity to choose how you're going to live and the things you're going to do. You're not just an animal who lives solely on instinct and lives solely on chemical reactions to your brain and reactions to your environment. Okay. You have deeper capacity. Okay. You have more of a person and personality than anything else that exists. Okay. This means that you get to decide how you live. You're not just driven by chemical reactions in your brain or deep impulses. Okay. You have a soul. You are your own individual person who is deep and complicated. All right. So let me give you a small sort of silly example. Okay. Let's say you're in a classroom full of people and you get up to go to the bathroom and you walk toward the front of the class and you trip and you fall. Okay. And the people in the classroom, they're kind of unkind and they sort of laugh at you. All right. They laugh, think it's funny. They point and laugh, whatever. And so in that moment, okay, you have chemical reactions that happen automatically. Possibly you blush or you feel embarrassed. Okay, that happens. Split second. You don't need to think about that. That just happens. But also in that moment, you have a decision to make. How am I going to play this, right? So am I going to get mad, maybe follow my instincts, get mad or be embarrassed? Am I going to storm out of the room? Am I going to go sit down and hide my face? Am I going to cry? Am I going to run out and never come back? Or am I going to laugh along with them, sort of maybe make a joke, and show them that it doesn't bother me, even though it does, maybe a little bit, but show them that, I can laugh at myself. I don't take myself too seriously. Okay, you have a choice. You can run through that in your brain and make a decision based on not only who you are, but who you want to be. Okay, you have all of that capacity. So you are so much more than just your base instincts and your immediate reactions. Okay, and that's true in so many more important and serious things in your life. Okay, you can make decisions about who you want to be. You can change your reactions to things. Now, maybe not your immediate responses, but even over time, even those. Okay, you can decide in your soul that you want to live a certain way and then choose to live that way and take action steps toward changing your life in that way. You are not a slave to random impulses in your brain. You are not a slave to chemical reactions in your brain, okay? Now, certainly they affect who you are, and the decisions you make and the things you do are driven by who you are, okay? But they're not the sum total of who you are, okay? This is important because it creates a separation between the things that you do and the things that you choose to do and who you are, okay? Who you are is not always perfectly reflected in what you do, all right? You take a moment in time when someone is hungry or tired and they snap at their kids or they snap at their spouse or they treat someone badly on the street maybe, okay? You take that moment in time and you take that snapshot and you say, gosh, they're a pretty mean person, right? That may not be true. They may not be a mean person normally, or maybe they are and they're working on it and they're doing better than they ever have. And you don't know that because you're just taking this little snapshot, okay? So what we do is not always a perfect reflection of who we are, all right? Who you are in your soul is based on a lot of things. It's based on how you were created in the first place. It's based on the decisions you make in your life. It's based on the habits you develop, okay? All of those things are true and make up who you are. You're more than just your basest desires, instincts, and actions, all right? So that's extraordinarily important for us to understand because that now separates who we are from what we do to some degree. Again, what you do is derived from who you are, but not perfectly, all right? And it's not everything of who you are. Now, with that separation, we can then say, I dislike something you do, but I still love or care about you, all right? I can love who you are and dislike things that you do. I mean, think of the sad cases of drug addiction or alcoholism or a bad choice to get into a bad relationship, okay? I not only can I separate who you are from what you do and still love who you are and dislike or even hate the things that you're doing, especially if they're harming yourself, but if I love you, oftentimes it is almost mandatory that I confront you and approach you about the things that you're doing that may be harmful to yourself or to others. Okay, that's the loving thing to do. So I can love you and hate what you're doing. And not only that, but it's almost my obligation as someone who loves you to lovingly confront you about the things that you're doing that are harmful to yourself or to others. Okay, so there are many scenarios where we should, if we love somebody, confront them about something they're doing that we think is wrong. All right, and you might not agree. So if you're being confronted about something that you're doing that someone else thinks is wrong, you might not agree that's wrong. Okay, you might not think it's harmful to you or to others. You might not think it's morally wrong. Okay, but if that person does and they lovingly and respectfully come to you and say, look, I think you're harming yourself or others, that doesn't mean they hate you. It means they love you and care about you and are concerned for you, even if they're wrong about what they're concerned about, even if you don't think what you're doing is bad or harmful. Okay, the right thing for them to do is to confront you, and then you can have a discussion about whether what you think is doing is harmful or wrong. But you don't shut them out and say, oh, you're just full of hatred just because they're disagreeing with something you do. Okay, you're more than what you do. They know that. They love you even if they dislike something you're doing. Okay, so if we could keep that in mind, maybe we could have better discussions about what is right and wrong morally, what constitutes right and wrong, without automatically throwing up a barrier or defense saying, oh, you're just full of hatred. Okay, so let's bring this down into real life. All right, transgenderism, homosexuality, things like that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because that is most often where you hear that someone is full of hatred or is giving hate speech or whatever, is the idea of homosexuality and the ideology of transgenderism, okay? And whether or not you think that those things are wrong, That's not what I want to touch on right now. What I want to touch on is the idea that someone can think that the homosexual lifestyle or or transgenderism is wrong and not hate you. Okay, because you are more than your basest desires. You are more than your actions and the things that you do. You're more even than who you love or how you feel on the inside. Okay, you're more than that. All right, and so someone can love you and who you are, your kindness, your friendliness, your helpfulness, your self-sacrificial nature. Someone can love those things about you, okay, which are all part of you, and still dislike the way that you're choosing to live, or the way, and even if you say that's not a choice, okay, but the actions that follow from the way you're feeling are choices. And some people think that it's dangerous to live that way, maybe because they believe it's a sin, or maybe because they think it's harmful to you or to others, okay? And they can approach you about that and say, look, I think this is wrong, but I love you, okay? And that doesn't mean that they're full of hatred. They're concerned for you, whether they're right or wrong. They're concerned for you, okay? And they're separating who you are, which is more than your actions, from your actions, all right? And that's the loving, right thing for them to do if they believe that way, all right? So we want to make sure we separate our actions from who the person is, okay? We're more than our basest desires and our actions that come from those. I think we want to try to be more understanding of each other and not just automatically label each other as full of hatred, okay? The Bible says that we are made in God's image. That means that we were born with the capacity to understand more about life than anything else that has been created. We have the ability to imagine the future, okay, and what that could look like for us, and then to choose a path or choose actions that lead to that future, okay? That's something nothing else but God has the ability to do, all right? Nothing else in this world, in creation, in the physical world, has the ability to do, all right? And so we are so much more. We're so much more complicated than just our basest desires and instincts, okay? And so I hope that we're able to have better discussions with each other. I'm hoping that we can love and respect each other. Look, there are people who do hate other people. That's never going to go away, okay? But all I'm saying is it is possible to disagree with what someone does and the way they're choosing to live their life, and still love them and not be full of hatred, okay? So I hope this was helpful. I hope we're able to apply this and to learn to approach each other lovingly and respectfully, and learn that we are much more than our deepest and basest desires and instincts and actions, that we're a whole human being with capacity, okay? Love you all. Thank you.